Every year when the masks go on, something dark wakes up. Across towns and cities, laughter fills the streets, plastic knives, fake blood, glowing pumpkins. But behind the smiles and costumes, real horrors have happened. Real people have worn these masks not to celebrate Halloween but to kill. Tonight, you'll hear stories that sound like movies, but every single one of them really happened. People dressed as monsters who became monsters, friends who never made it home from parties, pranks that turned into tragedies, and masks that hid the faces of murderers. These aren't legends. They're evidence. Police reports, witness statements, lives destroyed, all linked by one night when pretending to be something else went too far. So listen carefully, and when Halloween comes again, remember these stories before you put on that mask. Because one small choice, one moment of laughter, one prank, one drink too many could make your story the next one told here. Welcome to Horror Night Stories. If you enjoy dark tales and airy mysteries, you're in the right place. I'm just starting this channel, so your support means a lot. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave a comment after the video to tell me what you think or what I should improve. Now turn off the lights, take a deep breath, and let your imagination paint every scene in your mind. Close your eyes and listen carefully, because tonight, these aren't just stories, they're warnings. Segment 1. The Slender Man Stabbing, Wisconsin, 2014. On the morning of May 31, 2014, the streets of Waukesha, Wisconsin, were quiet after a typical suburban weekend. In the woods at the town's edge, a 12-year-old girl named Peyton Leutner emerged, bleeding from 19 stab wounds. Her classmates, Anissa Weyer and Morgan Geezer, had lured her there. They later explained their motive. They wanted to prove their loyalty to a tall, faceless figure known as Slender Man. This story began as an internet myth. In 2009, an online contest invited users to create paranormal images. One user edited a photo of a tall, thin man in a black suit, with a blank white face. From that point, Slender Man became a digital legend, an entity that stalked forests, kidnapped children, and thrived in the darkest corners of imagination. For Anissa and Morgan, this myth became something more. They spent months reading about it, convincing each other he was real. To join him, they believed they needed to make a sacrifice. On that spring morning, they invited Peyton to a sleepover. They played dress-up, painted nails, and chatted about school-typical activities for 12-year-olds. Then they suggested a walk in the woods. What followed blurred the line between fantasy and reality. 19 knife wounds, a child crawling for help, two friends walking away, thinking they had satisfied a monster who didn't exist. Peyton survived. Anissa and Morgan were charged as adults with attempted homicide and diagnosed with delusional disorders. The Slender Man myth became a national headline, prompting parents to ask a troubling question: how far can imagination go before it becomes deadly? For costume companies, there was another concern. That same year, Slender Man suits appeared in stores. After the stabbing, retailers quietly removed them from their shelves. The faceless mask was no longer a harmless game. It turned into a symbol of something much darker. This case exemplifies how a costume, character, or story can step off the screen and into real life. And it was only the beginning. Segment 2. The Freddy Krueger Party Shooting, Texas, 2016. 2 years later, on Halloween night in San Antonio, Texas, the atmosphere buzzed with the smell of barbecue and artificial fog. The neighborhoods glowed orange under porch lights. Inside a packed house party, music reverberated through the walls and laughter echoed over plastic cups of punch. Just after midnight, the front door swung open, and a man dressed as Freddy Krueger entered. The razor gloves sparkled under the strobe lights, and the striped sweater was drenched in red dye. At first, everyone cheered. Another costume, another joke in a night meant for fun. Then the cheering stopped. The gun in his hand was not plastic. Witnesses later told police there had been an argument outside between the man and one of the guests. He left, returned in costume, and opened fire. 5 people were injured before he fled. In horror films, Freddy Krueger haunts dreams. In San Antonio, he walked through a door. The headlines were surreal. Man in Freddy Krueger costume shoots 5 at Halloween party. Police eventually identified the suspect and linked the attack to a personal dispute. Not the costume itself, but the symbolism endured. For weeks, news stations replayed images of Freddy's face alongside mugshots and police tape. Parents questioned if the horror culture had gone too far. Had glorifying monsters blurred the lines between fiction and violence? Sociologists noted that masks and costumes offer anonymity. On Halloween, anyone can become someone else. This freedom can empower, but it can also hide true intentions. When the mask slips, so does accountability. By dawn, the neighborhood fell silent again. 5 people were in hospitals, and the costume that once symbolized a movie monster now represented a real tragedy. Segment 3. The Masked Home Invasion, Virginia, 2024. In the fall of 2024, a quiet suburb in Virginia readied for another night of trick-or-treaters. Children rehearsed their routes while parents set out bowls of candy near the front door. One family installed a new doorbell camera that recorded motion on the porch. At 9:14 p.m., the footage captured 3 figures approaching the driveway. Each wore a different mask, one as a skeleton, another as a clown, and the last as an animal. They paused to whisper before one raised a gloved hand and knocked. From inside, laughter rang out. The family thought they were late-night trick-or-treaters. However, the voices outside didn't sound like children. The father opened the door slightly, then the first masked figure pushed in. Another pulled a metal object from beneath the coat. The camera caught chaos, shouting, scuffling, and the door slamming shut. The intruders fled into the night, leaving their family shaken but unharmed. Police arrived minutes later. They stated the suspects likely aimed to rob the family, using Halloween as a cover. The masks allowed them to blend in with real trick-or-treaters. Local news dubbed it the Halloween heist. Neighbors replayed the footage, staring at the blank eyes of the masks and wondering if they had seen those figures walking their streets earlier that night. The case remains unsolved. Authorities released still images, grainy silhouettes distorted by porch light. To most, they resembled props from a horror movie, but to the family inside that house, they signified that on Halloween, even familiar faces could hide extraordinary fear. 3 incidents, 3 different masks, each intended for fun, each ending in something painfully real. The night of costumes was far from over. Next, we move from the United States to Scotland, where a prank inspired by a clown costume turned a schoolyard laugh into national panic. Before we start this segment, please like the video and hit that subscribe button and tell me in comments which costume you are going to wear on the day of Halloween. Segment 4. The Pennywise Prank, Scotland, 2023. In October 2023, the town of Laurencekirk in northeast Scotland got ready for its annual Halloween fair. The local primary school decorated its windows with paper bats and orange garlands. Parents dropped off cupcakes and face paint kits. Everything felt safe, familiar, and ordinary. Then one morning, children in class looked out the playground window. Outside stood a figure in a dirty clown suit, with white face paint, red lines drawn from mouth to eyes, and an orange wig blown wild by the wind. He pressed his palms against the glass and tilted his head slowly. At first, the teacher thought it was part of the school festivities. Then the clown began to tap, starting softly and then speeding up. Children screamed. Some hid under desks. The teacher locked the door and called the office. Police arrived minutes later to find a man laughing, still wearing the mask. He was the father of one of the students. He told officers it was a prank inspired by Pennywise from It, a harmless joke for Halloween. But at that moment, it felt anything but harmless. Video of the incident spread online within hours. Headlines called it the Pennywise Panic. Parents criticized the man's actions. Experts discussed the thin line between fear and trauma. Psychologists noted that clowns trigger a specific kind of fear known as coulrophobia. The exaggerated features, the frozen smile, and the disconnect between laughter and menace unsettle something deep in the brain. After the incident, the father apologized publicly. No charges were filed, but that year's Halloween celebrations in town were cancelled. For weeks, children refused to walk near the classroom windows. It was meant to be a costume, a laugh, a moment of fun. Instead, it showed that sometimes horror doesn't need blood, it only needs imagination pushed too far. Segment 5. The Costume Fire Tragedy, London, 2014. On Halloween night in 2014, television presenter Claudia Winkleman took her 8-year-old daughter Matilda to a friend's party in West London. Matilda wore a witch costume, complete with a black tulle skirt, orange cape, and plastic broom, the kind sold in every supermarket that season. The street was lined with carved pumpkins, each glowing with real candles. At 5:45 p.m., Matilda leaned down to look at one. In seconds, the flame caught the hem of her costume. The synthetic fabric ignited instantly. Within moments, she was engulfed. Witnesses ripped off their coats to smother the fire. Paramedics arrived quickly, but the burns were severe. Matilda spent weeks in the hospital. She survived, but her injuries changed how Britain viewed Halloween. The investigation found that many children's costumes were made from polyester blends that burned like paper. Tests showed that some could ignite and spread flames in less than 9 seconds. Public outrage followed. Winkleman went on national television, her voice breaking as she described what had happened. She called for stricter safety standards, not as a celebrity, but as a mother who had seen a costume turn into a weapon. By 2017, the UK government revised flammability rules for children's dress-up clothes. Manufacturers redesigned materials, and stores added warning labels. Yet the image remained. A small witch costume catching fire next to a glowing pumpkin. It reminded everyone that even innocent traditions can hide danger, sometimes not in the mask, but in the fabric itself. Segment 6. The Michael Myers Murder Case, California, 2019. Riverside County, California, October 31, 2019. A neighborhood known for elaborate decorations and safe trick-or-treating. Just before 10 p.m., police received a call from a teenager reporting a man lying in the street, motionless, with a knife nearby. When officers arrived, they found the victim dressed in mechanic's coveralls and a white latex mask, the unmistakable likeness of Michael Myers from the Halloween film franchise. At first glance, it looked like a prop scene, one of many staged displays that night. Then they saw the blood. The victim, 25-year-old Christopher Diaz, had been stabbed multiple times after an argument outside a costume party. Witnesses said he had been confronted by another guest, also wearing a mask. No one could clearly identify the attacker. Every partygoer was in disguise. Detectives later pieced together fragments from phone videos and doorbell cameras. They believed the suspect had used the anonymity of Halloween to blend into the crowd, commit murder, and walk away unseen. For weeks, the community struggled to process the events. The Halloween franchise had built its myth around a silent killer behind a mask. Now, live mirrored art. Authorities eventually arrested a man who confessed to the stabbing after forensic evidence tied him to the scene. But the story left lingering discomfort, how easily a costume meant for fun could become linked to real violence. In interviews, neighbors said they no longer decorated as they used to. One woman told local news, "Every mask I see now reminds me of that night." The Riverside case added to a growing list of real incidents where disguise erased identity and turned fantasy into crime. The Michael Myers mask, once a symbol of movies, had crossed a line, from screen to street, from fiction to reality. 6 incidents, different countries, different motives, one repeating pattern. The power of disguise, a mask, a costume, a moment of make-believe, each offered freedom, and sometimes that freedom became a weapon. But Halloween's history holds even more of these stories, smaller, stranger events that flash through police reports and news archives before fading back into the dark. Those will form our closing montage, real fragments of fear that complete tonight's chronicle. Before we start this segment, please like the video and hit that subscribe button and tell me in comments which costume you are going to wear on the day of Halloween. Segment 6. Michael Myers, the real murder behind the mask. Each year, many Halloween partygoers wear the iconic Michael Myers mask, which is blank, emotionless, and chilling. It symbolizes fictional horror. However, on one Halloween night in 2017, in Knoxville, Tennessee, that mask was not part of a movie, it was part of a crime scene. 31-year-old Joel Hiles attended a neighborhood gathering when a man entered, dressed as Michael Myers, blue jumpsuit, white mask, and knife in hand. At first, everyone thought it was a prank, just another Halloween gag. Laughter erupted as the man stood silently in the doorway, motionless. But the laughter did not last long. Within seconds, a real knife flashed in the dim light. Screams filled the air as party guests realized this was not a costume prop. The attacker, 29-year-old Michael Trent, had been drinking heavily, and an earlier argument had spiraled out of control. Dressed in the Michael Myers outfit, he stabbed Joel multiple times before others restrained him. What made this tragedy even darker was how closely it mirrored the Halloween films. Witnesses later said it felt like a horror movie had come to life. Police reports described a chaotic, surreal scene, guests in costumes covered in blood, decorations knocked over, and horror music still playing in the background. The following morning, headlines called it the real-life Michael Myers murder. It became a cautionary tale about the fine line between make-believe terror and actual violence. Halloween's eerie charm had turned into something heartbreakingly real. Somewhere in the evidence locker, that white mask still sits, silent, cold, and lifeless, like a ghost of the night when fiction blurred with reality. Segment 7. Other Halloween costume horrors, a montage of madness. While some incidents make national headlines, countless smaller but equally disturbing stories happen every October 31st, moments that fade into local news but linger in the memories of witnesses. In Las Vegas, in 2009, a man dressed as the Grim Reaper collapsed mid-party. People laughed at first, thinking it was a stunt, until someone realized he wasn't breathing. He had suffered a fatal heart attack while dancing, his sickle clattering to the floor as the music continued. In Toronto, in 2015, 2 women dressed as zombies got into a fight with another partygoer. What began as playful shoving turned serious when one woman was pushed down a flight of stairs, fracturing her skull. Guests later admitted they thought the blood on her head was makeup, until paramedics arrived. Then there was Los Angeles in 2021, a viral case that briefly captured TikTok's attention. A group of teens dressed as clowns staged a fake kidnapping prank for Halloween night. They pulled up outside a shopping mall, pretending to grab one of their friends. Bystanders, unaware it was fake, called 911. Within minutes, armed police surrounded them. One officer, mistaking a toy gun for a real one, fired a warning shot. No one died, but it was a close call that could have ended much worse. Each of these moments follows a pattern: the power of disguise, the illusion of control, and how Halloween's atmosphere makes danger harder to see. Costumes can give us the courage to act differently, but sometimes that courage crosses a line. In numerous local reports over decades, Halloween costumes have been linked to stabbings, shootings, assaults, and even accidental deaths. The chaos of the night, combined with alcohol and anonymity, can turn fantasy into tragedy. For many, these incidents are just headlines, but for those who experienced them, Halloween never felt the same again. The masks, the laughter, the lights, they now echo something far more chilling. Segment 8. The reflection when masks hide monsters. As we piece these stories together, from Slender Man to Michael Myers, a haunting theme emerges. Halloween's greatest horror isn't supernatural at all, it's human. Every costume tells a story, but every mask also hides one. When people dress up as monsters, they sometimes forget to take the monster off. Psychologists who study seasonal crime note that Halloween increases behavioral disinhibition. This means people feel freer to act without consequences, to say or do things they normally wouldn't. When combined with costumes, darkness, and alcohol, that freedom becomes a dangerous mix. In several cases, killers use their disguises to move unnoticed, blending in with crowds or security footage. Others simply became too immersed in character, unable, or unwilling to separate fantasy from reality. The result is a night when police departments worldwide prepare for chaos, hospitals brace for emergencies, and parents double-check every child's costume before letting them go out. The horror, ultimately, isn't about the ghosts or ghouls. It's about the human face beneath the mask, and what it's capable of when no one knows who's really inside. Thank you for listening to Horror Night Stories. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Your support helps this channel grow, and your feedback shapes the stories that come next. So leave a comment below. Tell me what haunted you the most tonight. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your lights dim, and sleep well, if you can.